Hello, good evening, good day, everybody, and welcome back to the Ask Abhijit show. Today, we are doing episode 229. I hope you're all doing very well, and we have a lot to discuss. But as always, let me see who all is there on the live chat. Here with us on the live stream, I can see Feminist Slayer, Mr. 88ers, Ombe Kerikar, Karthik DA, Viraj Deshmukh, Debaron Bhattacharya, Geopolitical Dube, hello, Sharad Bagel, Weeb Master 99, Priyanshi Sood, Pranay Paul from Kolkata, Kapalen, Aviral Gandhi, Brijesh SK, Anand Badoria, Vikram Geopolitical, Krishna Raghunath from the Surinamese Netherlands, Geopolitical Dube, hello, Narendra Deshpande, Red, Rahul Dunake, Space Link Metalloids, Raja Akash Kumar, uh, who else do we have? Suman Pal, Komal, Konpal Chobe, Mr. Abhijit, Ilvayav Haitalar, Zubon Izang, Janvi, Shivansh Shankar, Samit Statement, Amay Rupal, Dhairya Lavanya, SGIND, Vivek Manak, Raghunath Mukherjee, Shreyas Mitra, Rahul, Manisha, Maithi, Vanraj Songara, America is Best, Vixel, Phenol, Abhishek, Hela, Bharat First, Prakhar Gupta, Amisha Mishra, hello, Rishikesh Das Gupta, God, Mukundan, Rajiv Kumar Gupta, Aman Oja, who else? Gaurav Jat Mamli, Anonymous, Pritam S, Srinivasan, Tarun TAC, Light Yagami, Baba Abhijit Chavda, and so many other people. Okay, Nishan Tiwari and Savindra and Sagar Ghare and Abhishek Pal Singh, Jasneet Singh, Utsav Khatri, everybody else. Okay, so let's get going with the questions that you have asked in the comments. I'll take a bunch of those, and then if there's time, I'll take questions from the live chat. So let's go. Let's go. What's the first question that we have today? The first question is by Rajorshi. Which animal species except humans, if it were to suddenly become extinct, would cause an extinction event again on Earth, and why? So what's an extinction event? An extinction event is a catastrophe, a biological catastrophe in which something happens on the planet which causes a significant percentage of the life forms or species on the planet to go completely extinct. So that's an extinction event, and the last extinction event that we know of happened about 66 million years before today. It happened as a consequence of the Chicxulub impact event, in which a comet or meteorite impacted the Earth somewhere around the Yucatan province region of Mexico, and it killed off the non-avian dinosaurs and significant percentage, more than 90% of the species on the planet. So that was the last extinction event that happened, that we know of. Significant extinction event. Now today, what one animal species, if it were to go extinct, except for humans, would cause an extinction event? That's the question. I would say it would take more than one animal species to go extinct. But one of the most important classes of animals on the planet are the phytoplankton and the zooplankton. The phytoplankton are microscopic plants, photosynthetic microorganisms that live in the oceans, and they produce a significant portion of the world's oxygen. And the phytoplankton are the primary producers of oxygen in the oceans. And then you have zooplankton, which are microscopic animals, microorganisms. They feed on the phytoplankton, and then you have fish and whales and other marine animals that feed on the zooplankton. Okay, so you have phytoplankton, which are microscopic plants, microorganisms, and you have zooplankton, which are microscopic animals. These two, I would say, are extremely important. If the phytoplankton, for example, were to go extinct, a significant percentage of the oxygen that's produced on the planet would no longer be produced. And if the phytoplankton go extinct, then the zooplankton will very quickly go extinct, because they will have nothing to eat. And then the oceans could turn anoxic, which means that they would not have sufficient oxygen in them to sustain other fish and other life forms like fish and other various kinds of animals. So you could have a significant extinction event happening in the oceans. And if the oceans die, then obviously it's going to cause repercussions on land, because oceans are two-thirds of the planet's surface area. And then whichever animals, mammals, etc., feed on fish and marine life, they would start going extinct. So you could have a domino effect being caused by this. So I would say one of the animal classes of animals are the plankton, the phytoplankton and the zooplankton. If they go extinct, it's going to be disaster on planet Earth. Another one that I could think of is the pollinating insects. So on land, you have much of the land area of the earth that is which is covered by vegetation, plants, trees, grasses, and all that. Okay, and many of these are flowering plants and trees and so on. Lots of crops, for example, are flowering crops that we all depend on, humans. Now these flowering plants and trees and crops and all, they depend on insect pollinators. So what are insect pollinators? These are insects that go from flower to flower, plant to plant, and to and they seek the plant's nectar. And while seeking the plant's nectar, they end up cross pollinating the plants. So plants, they have pollen in their flowers, and when a bee or any of these insects goes from one flower to another, it ends up pollinating the other flowers, the other plants. And that is the process of asexual reproduction that plants have. So these pollinating insects, they obviously, we know about bees, everyone knows about bees, but we also have flies and butterflies and beetles, etc. These are vital pollinators. And if these were to go extinct, it could cause extinction events among the plants. And if the plants start going extinct, then we could go extinct. So that's what I can think of off the top of my head. The zooplankton, the phytoplankton. First of all, the phytoplankton, then the zooplankton, and then the third class of animals would be the pollinating insects. If any of these three goes extinct, then it's going to be a disaster on the planet, and it could cause a mass extinction event. All right, let's go to the second question for today. Vivek, everyone in India is keeping an eye on what's happening to Vivek Ramaswamy. So we have a lot of questions. I've taken just 4 as a representation of everything that of the questions that everyone is asking. Ritik Pawar, Ankita Kachap, Sun Moon 0877, and Vikram Aditya Rathore. What are the questions? Why was Vivek Ramaswamy sidelined? Is it because of his skin color or his H1B tweet against the Americans? Did he make a political blunder after tweeting on the controversial H1B topic? Your opinion on Vivek Ramaswamy being ousted from DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Why has he been kicked out from DOGE? Is Elon Musk behind this? And once a prominent contender in the presidential race, Vivek Ramaswamy has seemingly faded from mainstream media, with reports suggesting his removal from DOGE. It's happened, yes. And a potential shift towards running for governor of Ohio. Does this signal the end of his presidential ambitions? And will the US ever see a young, magnetic leader, irrespective of their background or skin color, rise to the presidency? So what we are seeing right now is that Vivek was supposed to be one of the two front runners, or one of the two people who would run this new organization called DOGE, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. The other one would be Elon Musk. So it would be like Elon Musk first, Vivek second, and everybody else under these two guys. That is how it was supposed to be. And now it's emerged, the news has come out that Vivek Ramaswamy will no longer be involved in DOGE. Elon Musk is going to be the only guy running DOGE, and Vivek will be focusing on running for the post of governor of Ohio. That's what one hears. It's not confirmed. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy was very active the past couple of years on Twitter, on social media, on other the forms of media, etc. The past couple of weeks, he went very quiet. He was completely silent on Twitter. Now he's kind of come back. So what happened? It all went wrong for Vivek with one of his tweets, the long tweet that he made about I'm not going to open the tweet and do that, but he tweeted about the H1B controversy. And Trump was in favor of H1, is in favor of H1B immigration and having the right kind of people coming in. Elon Musk has been a strong defender of the H1B uh, visa policy, and Vivek also defended the H1B visa policy. But Vivek, the way he formulated his tweet, uh, it looked like he was saying that Americans have low standards and they need to do better and things like that. And coming from an Indian origin person, a second generation immigrant, a brown skinned guy, I don't think the Americans will take it, especially the conservatives, the MAGA crowd. It really rubbed them off the wrong way. It ruffled their feathers the wrong way. And that, I think it was politically extremely naive and immature of Vivek to lecture his potential voters. See, in politics, in a democracy, at the end of the day, you've got to depend on the voter, and you want to ensure that you offend as little of the potential vote bank as possible. And Vivek went off on this tirade against the people who were opposing the H1B visa policy, and it really made a tremendous number of people among the Republicans angry, and they were waiting for an excuse to show off their racism against non-white people. So in the US, racism is not looked upon as something good. You can't say a thing against, let's say, the black people. In the past, the Americans were very racist against the blacks. Okay, but today you can't say a thing against the blacks, and I think it's a good thing, right? Racism is bad. You can't say a thing against Muslims, for example. You'll be called Islamophobic and you'll be cancelled. But when it comes to Indians, you can say whatever you want to be to Indians, and you can be as racist as you want against Indians, because Indians aren't politically significant. Even despite being, about 1% of the US population, Indians haven't unified as a single cohesive political bloc. So Indians are insignificant politically, and you can just say whatever you want, and there'll be no consequences. The media won't cancel you. Social media won't cancel you. So that's what's happened. Vivek was incredibly naive in going after his vote bank, his potential vote bank. I mean, think about it. In India, Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister, what does he call the voter? Janata Janardhan. He does his best to bow, to bend over backwards to appease every section imaginable of the Indian voting public. Right? Mr. Modi is obviously, he knows he's an extremely experienced and wise politician. It is political suicide to alienate even a certain small percentage of the potential vote bank. You can't do that. And Vivek, I don't know out of what, out of immaturity, out of naivete or whatever, he just opened the doors for all his potential haters to come and go after him. And I suppose Trump was just waiting for that opportunity. I don't think Trump likes Vivek a lot. He says he likes him. He says that I didn't like him when he was running against me, but now I like him and all that. But at the end of the day, it's all about the voter. And when the voter has turned against Vivek, Trump's gonna let him go. And when it comes to the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, there can only be one top dog. And Elon Musk is not going to let another guy try to joust for the number one spot or even the number two spot, especially when it's a guy like Vivek, extremely intelligent, extremely sharp, extremely all that. So Elon Musk was waiting for the opportunity to get rid of Vivek. Obviously, that's how it works. And the opportunity was presented to them on a platter by Vivek himself. And that's what happened. So Vivek is out of Doge. He's going to fade out of the political limelight to some extent. He may run for governor of Ohio. I don't think it's going to be easy for him to become the governor of Ohio. Okay. First of all, he's brown. Secondly, he's way more intelligent than most white people, which is like it makes people insecure. Thirdly, he's not even a Christian. He's still a polytheist. He's still a Hindu. If he had at least converted to Christianity, things would have been fine for him. I mean, somewhat easier for him. Like Bobby Jindal or Nikki Haley, they converted to Christianity. So That's why they were able to become governors of whatever. Vivek, he remains a Hindu. He tries to portray himself as an Abrahamic Hindu of sorts. I believe in one God, a monotheistic form of Hinduism or whatever. He's trying his best to align himself with the prevailing culture in the US, but it's not going to work. I think right now, next few years, Vivek is going to fade away, but he's still young. He is still very rich. So in the long run, who knows? Things may change, but yeah, things are looking not very good for Vivek right now. And for us Indians, how do we care? Let's say in the future he could have become president, but he has shot himself in the foot, and it's no longer easy for him. Even if Vivek were to become president in the future, what difference will it make for India? It's going to be America first. So I don't know why Indians are so obsessed with Indian origin people succeeding outside of India, especially in the US. It does no good to India. You had Kamala Harris, half Indian lady, who was the vice president of the US until 5 days ago. What good did she do for India? She was strongly anti-India in her policies, wasn't she? And you have Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella, all these people who are CEOs of the biggest companies on the planet. I mean, do they do a single thing that's good for India? No, they serve their company and they serve their nation. They are now citizens of the US. So I don't know why Indians are so obsessed with Indians succeeding in the US. It makes no difference to India. So from my perspective, I don't care. Vivek doing well, Vivek not doing so well. Of course, if he does well, then the perception of Indians kind of slightly increases, and maybe a lot of hate will then flow towards India as well. So overall, it doesn't make any difference for India from a national interest, national security perspective. So I don't care. But yeah, that's the deal with Vivek. Extremely naive move, extremely immature move by Vivek. You don't ever lecture your potential vote bank. You never do that. That's politics 101. Politics 101. You don't do that. And he did the cardinal mistake. Cardinal sin in politics is to lecture your vote bank. You never do that. You go to bend over backwards and go to bow and scrape in front of them. That's what you would do. So if he has anyone to blame, he has only himself to blame for what's happened. Vikram Geopolitical says people in the US are going crazy over US citizenships and are even going for preterm cesarean sections, so that their child is born before the 20th of February. Is the US citizenship worth more than your child's health? What's your take on this? This news that we are seeing of late on social media, that Indian origin people are scheduling emergency cesarean sections to have their child artificially born slightly premature before the 20th of Feb, because that is the cutoff date for the end of the birthright citizenship. This news is fake news. It has been put out by a couple of Indian newspapers like the Times of India and the Indian Express, if I'm not mistaken. And this is entirely fake news. Indian media outlets and Indian media outlets have no journalists on the ground in the US. All they do is they look at reports from the Western media and they rehash it and say that it's our analysis and our news. Indian media is the worst of the medias in the world, the most incompetent media in the world, and this is fake news. How do they know that a lot of Indians are doing this? Do they have reporters on the ground in the US who are keeping an eye and tabs on Indian citizens who are trying to and what they're trying to do, especially those who are pregnant, for example? No, this is completely fake news, and it's tarnishing India's image in the world. This is the Indian media for you, just for the sake of some sensationalism and some breaking news. They don't care what their stupid reporting does to the nation's image worldwide. This is entirely fake news. Absolutely fake news. It's possible that if somebody their kid was supposed to be born, let's say sometime in March, they may try and have a C-section scheduled for before the 20th of February. It's possible, but do we have a single instance that is verified? We don't have it. Have these media outlets, Times of India, etc., given data or statistics that we have evidence that these many people are doing that? Nothing. Absolute nonsense, absolute fake news. I think it's really reprehensible that they're doing this. Prakhar Gupta says within 4 days of taking over of the presidency of America, Mr. Trump has taken many phenomenal decisions and signed executive orders like leaving the WHO, deporting illegal immigrants, changing citizenship laws, warning of tariffs at the WEF, World Economic Forum 2025, and many more. What do you think of these? Is this just the naya josh of Trump, or is it really gonna give? Does it really give a serious indication of how his tenure is gonna shape up the world? Is going to shape the world in the next 4 years. I don't think it's some newfangled enthusiasm which will slowly die down. I don't think so. Trump means business. And Trump, this time, the difference between Trump as the 45th president and Trump today as the 47th president of the US, the difference is that as the 45th president, he was swimming against the current. He did not have the support of the establishment at all. This time, Trump 47, POTUS 47, has the complete support of the establishment, the so called deep state or whatever you want to call it. And his clear ambit is to completely reshape the world into a more favorable world for US hegemony and the US empire. That's what his remit is. That's what he's going to do. So he has signed, I don't know how many executive orders on the first day itself, more than 100, more than 200, I'm not sure. And he has undone so many of the policies right away on day one of the Biden administration. And he's just getting started. Trump is going to show the world what real power is and how power is to be wielded, how power is supposed to be wielded. If you get power in your hands, how do you use power? This is going to show the world that, not just internally when it comes to the internal policies in the US, but globally, geopolitically. He's going to show the world that the last century, after 1945, of the so-called rules-based world order, this very nice period of less wars and all that, things don't really work that way. That was an outlier, right? At the end of the day, it's all about raw, naked power, and that's what he's going to do. So he's already going after Greenland. He will go after Panama. He may go after Canada. He may have certain plans for India, for China, for Russia. He's gonna be as subtle. Donald Trump is gonna be as subtle and as restrained as a wildfire in a library. That's how it's gonna be. He's just getting started. So the first day, right after taking oath, he signs about 200 executive decisions that completely undo so much of what Biden and his government's policies were. That's how you're supposed to do. That's how you're supposed to do things. Once you get power in your hands, you're supposed to use the power and change things, not continue the same old policies. In India, we keep on moaning. That sarkar to hamari hai, lekin system unka hai. Well, Trump is on day one changing the system itself. That's how you do it. You got to fight. So yeah, that's the difference between Trump and other world leaders, I would say. And obviously the system also is different, but that's what you have. So what Trump has done in the past 4 days is a serious indication of what he's going to do to shape the world in the next 4 years. He's going to be a transformative president, one of the most impactful presidents. His objective probably is to be the biggest, baddest, greatest president in the US since George Washington. I think that's what his plan is, to leave behind that legacy that nobody will forget. So he's just getting started. Believe you me. Vikram Geopolitical says, India has agreed to take back 18,000 illegal Indian immigrants from the US. How do I see this move? So we know that during the Biden era, the past 4 years, they opened the gates of the US, the southern border, and they allowed as many illegal immigrants to flow through the southern border as they could. And most of these illegals were people from South America, Latin America, I don't know, Africa, etc. But you also had Indians who were coming in. So all you had to do as an Indian or any illegal immigrant is that you, at the border, you tear up your passport, throw it in the bushes or wherever, in the trash, and you cross over into the US. As long as you have no official documentation, you would be taken to some place in the US, by bus or by train or whatever. You would be given a hotel and some money and cash and some form of ID, and the Biden regime would try and assimilate you into the US population as a member of a pro Democratic Party vote bank. That was the plan. So I've seen videos of Indians crossing the border, the US Mexico border, into the US, crossing over. So it looks like there are about 18,000 illegals who have been brought in by Biden and his regime. And now Trump wants them gone. Well, obviously, he has the right to do that if if they have entered the US illegally. And when Trump tells the Indian government, I need this to happen, do you think India will say no? Obviously, India will not say no. We dare not. So India naturally will do whatever we can to please him and not incur his anger and wrath. So I think it's a smart move. It's not like we have any choice. That's how I see it. And here is the inevitable question when it comes to repatriation of illegal immigrants. The US is doing that. Trump is going to go all out after this. And then the question is this: will the Modi government 3.0 do anything to overcome illegal immigration from Bangladesh and Myanmar? From Bangladesh, you have millions of Bangladeshis coming in, and Rohingyas also. And from Myanmar, you have, I don't know how many lakhs of cookies just walking into India. Right? It's a serious issue. Oh, yeah, it's a serious issue, which we need to resolve, as the illegal immigrants are getting involved in crimes and thefts, and as we saw recently with Saif Ali Khan. I'm from Assam. BJP is doing nothing. Congress and BJP are the same. Both are fooling Indians. I'm from Jammu, and Bangladeshi people live in Jammu and take part in agriculture in Jammu, and they open juice shops in Jammu. I request to the government, please ban their fake Indian Aadhaar cards. This has been going on for so long. About, I don't know, more than. See, the cookie infiltration has been going on in India since the 20th century. Okay, after 1949, when Manipur officially became a part of the Indian Union, the Indian government's policy was to bring in cookies as refugees and settle them in Manipur territory, in Indian territory. Why? I have no idea why. Completely idiotic, imbecilic policy, moronic policy. Do I have worse words? I'm sure I do, but I won't utter them here. But that's what we're doing. When it comes to Bangladesh, the India-Bangladesh border is manned by what? The BSF. The BSF is not the Indian military. It's not the Indian army. It's a paramilitary force. It's a police force which wears army uniforms, and they have automatic rifles and things like that. BSF. And the BSF, I mean, just look at news reports. How many BSF officers have been arrested for facilitating Bangladeshi illegal immigration into India? I mean, look at the media reports the past 20 years or so. Terrible. Then you have CRPF in Manipur. Then you have Assam Rifles in Manipur. I'm not going to go into those organizations. I think the less we say about them, the better. Okay. But the consequence of all of this corruption, alleged corruption, is that more than 100 million Bangladeshis may be in India right now. And they are leeching off India's resources and competing with Indians for resources and territory and all that. It's a disaster. They are in every major city. You can see them all over the place. They no longer even try to hide their identities. They speak in Bangladeshi accented Bangla language and so on. And I wonder what the government of India is doing. When it comes to illegal immigration, it's not a state issue. It's a central issue. So what is the central government doing? And I've played one of the videos of Mr. Modi promising in 2014 that the moment he becomes Prime Minister, Bangladeshis will be deported. Well, how many have been deported? I think it's not a legitimate question to ask. So yeah, I would say that Mr. Modi, whatever he has done or not done the past 11 years, 10 and a half years after becoming Prime Minister, I think he has a golden opportunity now. Mr. Trump is going after the illegal immigrants who are currently in the US, is going to deport them all. So if at the same time India deports the illegal Bangladeshis and cookies and Rohingyas who are all over the country, I don't think the US can complain, because they're doing the same thing at the same time. I think this is the golden opportunity, the one opportunity that Mr. Modi will ever get to deport the illegals. I think he should take it. Let's hope he takes it. I don't know why he hasn't done it thus far, but I hope that he takes the opportunity this time. Vikram Aditya Rathore says there was a report which says that Guru Patwant Singh Pannun, the Khalistani terrorist, the US citizen Khalistani terrorist, was present in one of Trump's inauguration events. And he was saying Khalistan Zindabad meters away from Trump. How come the US Secret Service wasn't aware of this? And they are openly inviting a radicalist, no terrorist, to such an important event. How should India deal with this? And should PM Modi leverage his bonhomie with Trump, with President Trump, to put pressure on the Khalistanis? So it is now clear that Pannun was present at the inauguration event, or one of the events, where Trump was. And he was in the same room as Trump. Gur Patwant Singh Pannu, a US citizen who is a terrorist, who is a Khalistani. And he was saying Khalistan Zindabad when everyone was saying USA, USA. So was the US Secret Service not aware of this? Do you think the US Secret Service is not aware of anything? They know everything that's going on. They invited Pannun to the event. Why did they do that? To send a message to India that nothing's going to change after Trump becomes president. Nothing's going to change. They're going to keep on supporting Khalistani terrorism and separatism in India. So the US funded and financed Pakistani terrorism in India, against India, for decades. Pakistan was bleeding India through terrorism for decades, right? From the 1970s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, until the 2000s at least. Even now it's going on. Now you may perhaps say that the US is no longer funding and financing it, but the 1970s, 80s, 90s, etc., 2000s, the Americans were funding and financing Pakistani terrorism. Whether it was in Jammu and Kashmir, whether it was in Punjab, the Khalistan issue, all that, the Americans were behind it. Pakistan was their proxy. All right? So that's been America's long-standing history and policy towards India. And right now they see India as a potential long-term competitor. Maybe in 20, 30 years time, India could potentially become the next form of China, kind of. And they don't want that to happen, so they will do their best to hamper and hinder India's growth, economic growth, and technological growth, and whatever else India can do. One of the ways to do it is to foment separatism and support anti-India terrorists and separatists. Very easy, right? So nothing is going to change after Trump becomes president. They will continue to support Khalistani terrorism against India and Khalistani separatists. And inviting Pannun to this event is a great example of this. So how should India deal with this? Should PM Modi leverage his friendship with Trump? Mr. Modi has zero leverage on Mr. Trump. Okay, they may be friends and they may have cordial relations, and Mr. Trump may say Narendra is my good friend and all that. It counts for nothing. Mr. Modi has zero leverage on Trump. How should India deal with this? India should swallow the pain and the hurt. There's nothing India can do about it. Of course, you can look. There's really almost no leverage that India has against the US. So it's just gonna be the way it is. It's gonna be status quo. It's gonna be things will continue the way they are. They were under the Biden regime. Not much will change when it comes to these issues. Anant Pai and Hedgehog's Dilemma have this question. Dr. Jaishankar was seated, India's foreign minister, Dr. Jaishankar, was seated in the first row during President Trump's inauguration, while other foreign ministers were seated in the third or fourth row. Does this gesture show India's importance for the US in the coming 4 years? The Indian foreign minister was given a front row seat at the Trump inauguration. Does this send a message that the new Trump government will be more friendly towards India? You know, the Americans have known for a very long time that Indians are very big on status. The Indians are very receptive to flattery. You say a few good words about India to the Indians, and they'll be all flattered and they'll be all dancing around, dancing in the aisles. And if you give them some special status, then Indians will be like overjoyed and they will do whatever you want them to do. Okay, The Americans have known this for a very long time. Look at old CIA declassified documents from the 1950s and 60s and all that. They've known it about Indians for a very long time. Now, it's possible that the current Indian government is a more hard-nosed Indian government, a more realistic government that is not that receptive to flattery, and it doesn't make much of a difference. It's possible. It's possible that Dr. Jaishankar is obviously is one of the most experienced foreign ministers and diplomats in the world, and this will not really work on him. So what's the deal? So why did they give Dr. Jaishankar a front row seat during Trump's inauguration? Clearly, there is some kind of special status that they assign to India, right? The Trump administration. What is the special status that they have given to India? I think they see India as the number one nation they want to turn into an American vassal. Okay? The Americans are going to insist that India becomes a US vassal, a puppet, a client state. So Indians who become American citizens will find it very hard to rise in politics. Vivek is a great example. Okay, the H-1B thing that's going on, and there's a huge backlash against Indians getting H-1B visas. Others can get it, but Indians, if they get it, it's bad. So that's gonna be the situation in the US. The way Indians are regarded in the US, but they will want India to become a US vassal. I think that's why Dr. Jaishankar was given a front row seat. That we're gonna single you out for the special treatment. You will be our next big vassal, and we're gonna use you against China and whatnot. But maybe we will give you some privileges. If you're a good boy, good little boy, then we'll let you exist. We will not interfere too much in your internal affairs. Maybe we'll ask Pakistan to back off a little bit. Maybe we'll ask East Pakistan and Bangladesh to tone it down. And maybe we will kind of put a hold on Project K, Cookie Land for Christ. But you become our vassal. And then we will leverage you in various ways against China. I think that's why Dr. Jaishankar got a front row seat. It's not like India is some great special nation. India is one of the few thus far sovereign nations in the world, one of the 4 sovereign nations, but let's see how long that lasts. That's how it works in an imperial system, And maybe it's a good thing if you become a US vassal. Maybe. So I don't think the US government, the Trump government, is going to be especially friendly towards India. Of course, if we bend over and we do everything they tell us to do, then they're going to be super friendly towards you, as long as you do what they say. The moment you try and say no to them, you're going to find out how nasty the US can be. Okay, McLevin and Vikramaditya Rathore have this question. You said that Trump might give us an ultimatum to become an American vassal. If that happens, now how will we deal with it? Are we capable of fighting them? If India becomes a vassal, what will that look like? India is one of the rare countries to have cordial ties with Western nations and Eastern nations like Russia, part of the Quad, part of the BRICS. Cordial ties with both Iran and Israel. How long are we going to walk on the tightrope trying to balance relations in this polarized world? And will there come a time when we will have to choose sides? Trusting the US is not viable in the long run because they will do everything to stop our rise. So it's better to have relations with BRICS nations. What are your views on this? Trump has already said that he's going to smash BRICS, kind of, that sort of thing. He's already said very strong things about BRICS, that BRICS is a threat and BRICS needs to behave itself and so on. So BRICS is going to be on his radar. Okay, he's going to go after BRICS for sure. Now, it's a polarized world, and we have cordial ties, which means friendly ties and polite relations with everybody, with the East, with the West, with the Americans, with the EU nations, with the NATO nations, with Russia, with Iran, with Israel, with the Palestinians. We are friends of everyone, right? How long is it going to continue this way? I think it won't last for too long now. I think, like McLevin says, Trump will most likely very soon give India an ultimatum. You got to pick a side. And if you don't pick our side, if you're not with us, you're going to be against us. That's what Trump will say to India. How should India deal with this? Well, straightforward. You become a US vassal. You do what they say. So which means that you can no longer import arms from Russia. You have to buy American weapon systems, the biggest and the best weapon system in the world. Okay, we have the best weapon systems. You're going to buy those from us. That's what Trump will say. So we can no longer buy things from the Russians. We have to depend on the Americans for jet engines and all that. And maybe we can, maybe we will have to give overflight, facilities to American US Air Force aircraft, maybe give a military base or two to the Americans somewhere on India's peripheral territory. Those things may happen. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be hard for India to remain completely multi-aligned, or for India to maintain its strategic autonomy, so-called strategic autonomy. I think Trump is going to be very clear very soon. You're going to pick a side, and if you're not with us, you're against us, and we're going to do everything to hurt you. In that case, I think that's what's going to happen soon. And India is not strong enough to be able to resist the US. India is no match to the US. The Americans can destroy India's economy in a week's time if they want to. So if they give us an ultimatum, there will be no choice for India but to accept, which means that India-Russia ties can be said, can say goodbye to those. And that's what could happen. I hope I am wrong, but that's how I see Donald Trump's coming to power, what it signifies for India. I hope I am wrong. But it may not be all bad to be a USSR. You can be and also run kind of civilization for the next 100 years. And maybe someday when the chance comes, we'll have someday, hopefully, a good leader who can turn India into a great nation and civilization in the future. Right now, we have no such leader. So that's where we are. Pranay Paul says, if a Republican lawmaker's resolution to amend the Constitution and allow Donald Trump to seek a third term comes to fruition, what could be the geopolitical implications for US hegemony? How would this impact global relations and power dynamics, especially with rising global challenges? Could this shift in US leadership potentially alter the direction of international policies and the balance of influence around the world? So I heard the news somewhere that a Republican lawmaker or somebody wants to amend the Constitution and allow American presidents to have 3 terms in office. I don't think that's going to happen, first of all, because of constitutionality and legality and whatnot. The Supreme Court of the US probably won't allow that. Okay. And even if, let's say, this happens, because it's happened in the past, long ago, let's say even if the Constitution is amended and this is allowed. Look, Donald Trump has just become the president, right? He's 78 years old? Let's find out how old he is. Let's go to Google, our friend Google. How old is Donald Trump? Let's Google that. Donald Trump age. Okay, he's 78 years old right now. Okay. So he's 78 now, and in 4 years' time, Donald Trump will be 82. Do you think it makes sense for a nation to have an 82-year-old president? Which means that once he is done with his 3rd term, he'll be 86. Now, we've already seen the kind of leadership so-called leadership that Biden provided to the US at that advanced age. I don't think Donald Trump himself would want to become president a 3rd time. I could be completely wrong because he's one of a kind. So who knows? I think he's going to do everything in his power to completely reshape the world and the US the next 4 years, and turn the world from being under the so-called rules-based world order to being under an outright imperial system. And he's going to turn the US into the greatest and biggest and baddest empire ever. That's what I think he's going to do. And I think 4 years is enough for him to do that. In 4 years, the US could become a spacefaring power, a multiplanetary power. They could have Mars, territory on Mars that they call their own, and nobody else can do that. And they could be, and by the time OpenAI, etc., may have achieved artificial super intelligence. I think AGI must have already happened, artificial general intelligence. I think by the time they will achieve artificial super intelligence, which makes them, which gives them superpowers, essentially. Hyperpowers, possibly. The next 4 years could be enough for that. And in that case, I don't think he will need a 3rd term. So I think it's unlikely, but let's see. Let's wait and see how it goes. Let's wait and watch. Pranay Paul says, Why did Dr. Fauci need a pardon? And what does it say about the power of a US president to pardon anyone in the final moments of their office? Does this undermine the integrity of the office when pardons are issued to family members and controversial figures at the 11th hour? So it's not like the US president can only pardon somebody when they're about to demit office. It's not like that. They can pardon somebody, a person anytime during the tenure as president, on the first day, during the second year, or whenever. Okay, it's not like it has to be at the last moment. But Biden, or whoever is controlling Biden, has pardoned a whole bunch of people. I think Biden has given more presidential pardons than anybody else in the history of the US. One of these was to his son, Hunter Biden. His son was, well, what can I say? I mean, the less we say about Hunter Biden, the better. An absolute criminal, right? Who done the worst kind of things. But he's been pardoned, and various family members of Biden have been pardoned, and Dr. Fauci has been pardoned, which makes us wonder what crimes did Fauci commit that he needed to be pardoned by the U.S. president, by Biden. Fauci obviously is the guy who was the architect, allegedly, of the US response to the coronavirus pandemic. Some allege that he was the architect of the pandemic itself, or somebody, that sort of thing. So we don't know. But clearly, he must have done things that were terrible, right? That's why Biden needed to pardon him. And maybe he needed to do that to cover things up for himself as well, perhaps, or his administration. Um, it's just the way it is, okay? Does it undermine the integrity of the office of the US president? I don't think so. It's always been this way, but this time it's been used to an extent that's never happened before, right? It doesn't undermine the office of the US president. It obviously is a bad look when you're pardoning your family members who clearly have been involved in various crimes and all. It's a bad look, but um, it's just the way it is. Look, the US is the most powerful nation. It's an empire, and things such as these happen in an empire. The emperor can do things which prime ministers cannot do, for example. Dungar Singh Chauhan and Pranay Paul, what do you think about the Nazi salute by Elon Musk? Elon Musk's Nazi salute at the inauguration has drawn attention. What does it say about his public persona, and how could it affect his influence in tech and politics? So I'm not going to do what he did, okay? The salute that he did, Elon Musk says that he put his hand on his heart, and then he said that I give out this love to the people, or that sort of thing. That's the kind of justification or explanation that Elon Musk has given. Um, well, this salute, it's not originally a Nazi salute, okay? It was used by the Nazis, but 2000 years ago, it was a Roman salute. The Romans had the same salute. I mean, if you watch recreations, or historical recreations of Roman times, if you watch various movies and series they have about Rome, you will find the same salute being given by Roman soldiers, legionaries, and all. So, but of course, these days it's associated with the Nazis, so it's not seen as good form to do that. But Elon Musk did that, and then his supporters on Twitter have put out various other clips of other world leaders doing similar kind of gestures. Gestures that are similar to that. Um, that's what's transpired in the past couple of days on social media. What do I think about this? I think that Elon Musk knows that nobody can touch him today. He has the full support, just like Trump does, of the American establishment. He may actually have more of the US establishment or deep state support than Trump, possibly, because he's he's their spearhead when it comes to solar system colonization, solar system colonization, the Starlink network that essentially is a surveillance network of the entire world, and so much more. So I think Elon Musk knows nobody can touch him, no matter what he does. He will have the support of the establishment, which allows him to do things that most people can't do. So it will not affect his influence or power in technology or in politics. Right now, he's like number 2 in the US after Trump. The vice president, JD Vance, doesn't have anything like the kind of power Elon Musk does. So Elon Musk has been very smart. He has used his wealth to invest in critical technologies like space exploration, like satellites, the Starlink constellation. He's got thousands of those satellites, which gives him tremendous power, and batteries, electric vehicles, batteries. You know, those Hamas pagers. If a battery can explode, imagine what a gigantic car battery can do. So there is that, and the boring company and those tunnels and all that he's constructing all across the US, it gives him tremendous power. So, and he has the backing of the establishment. So he is untouchable, essentially. Nothing can happen to him. He's going to be fine. So he can do whatever he wants, including what looks like a Nazi salute. The feminist slayer says, will the development of AI, artificial intelligence, to its full extent cause humans to lose their intelligence and become slaves to the oligarchs? I observe that many depressed individuals are relying on AI chatbots and AI girlfriends to feel free, avoiding forming friendships with real people. What's the ultimate agenda behind this advancement in artificial intelligence? You know, a lot of people believe that AI is a commodity that will allow American companies to become rich. Okay. So you have Chat GPT, OpenAI, that is selling multi-tiered subscriptions. The lowest tier, I believe, is $20 a month, in which you get a certain kind of capability that you're at your disposal of the AI. And then recently they've come up with a new higher tier, which is about $200 a month, in which you get like a much more powerful access to a much more powerful AI system, a much more powerful version of the AI. And so a lot of people think that it's about making these companies rich. They're gonna get really rich because all they are the ones who have this technology, and the whole world wants to use it. But it's not just about the money. Okay, AI is not just about the money. It's actually about power. So you have EU politicians like Keir Starmer, who are saying that we should not get left behind. We should also have a slice of the pie. We should also make some money. Then you have what's her name, Ursula von der Leyen, the EU president, who is saying some things like that, similar things. Biden said some such similar things. OpenAI, what's his name? Whoever the guy is, Sam Altman. They're all saying that it's all about the money, but actually, it's not about money. It's about power. How is it about power? And it's not about, see, which are the main companies that have top class AI systems? OpenAI obviously is one. Then you have Perplexity, that kind of is a wrapper on top of other AIs, so that's not really that powerful. So you have OpenAI, you have Grok, you have Claude, and the Chinese have come up with DeepSeek, and so on. So you got 3 or 4 of these companies that have top class AI systems. And what they have disclosed to the world, the best AI system they've disclosed to the world is obviously not the best that they have. The best that they have is going to be secret. So it is said that we are about 3 to 5 years from AGI, artificial general intelligence. What is AGI? AGI is an AI system that is as intelligent as a reasonably intelligent human being and can do everything a reasonably intelligent human being can do. It's like being the equivalent of a human with about 130 IQ. 130 is said to be good, like really intelligent. Genius level IQ is 150. 130 is like very, very good IQ. So an AI system with that sort of IQ can do everything a human with that sort of IQ can do. And that's what we call AGI, artificial general intelligence. Now, an AGI system can improve itself iteratively and soon become, within a few years, an ASI system, artificial super intelligence. An ASI system is like a human being with IQ 300 to 500, which means no such human exists or could exist. It's a superhuman system. And when you have an ASI system with IQ about 500, it can develop transformative technologies that seem like magic to us. Time travel and wormholes and whatnot, that sort of thing. So if once you have an ASI system, you are the master of the universe. And then you can ensure that nobody else can catch up with you. So that's all about power. It's not about money. No one cares about money when you're talking about capacity of that kind of magnitude, right? So it's about power ultimately. And who will hold that power is the question. Let's say OpenAI develops an ASI system. Will Sam Altman be the emperor of the universe? He won't. It's the US government which will be the emperor of the universe because they control Sam Altman and all the assets that OpenAI owns on US soil or wherever, because they control most of the world. So at the end of the day, it's the US government that's going to end up becoming the hyperpower. So AI is not about money, it's about power. It's nothing except power. And the development of AI to its full extent will cause one entity, the US government most likely, to become the dominant entity for the foreseeable future. Let's say 1,000 years. And the rest of humanity will essentially do the bidding of the US government once this happens. Will we become slaves? If they are nice enough, they will not make us slaves, but we will kind of continue to exist in some kind of uh, in whatever shape or form they want humans to exist. So that's just the direction in which the world is going right now. I wish I could sugarcoat it, but that's the deal. It's about making whoever owns the ASI system. So that's why everybody is trying their best to develop AI, right? Throwing in immense, insane amounts of money into developing AI infrastructure, like Stargate, for example, which we'll discuss shortly. It's all about power. It's nothing to do with money. It's all about power. Money is not a constraint over here. It's about power. It's about becoming the ultimate power in the known universe. That's what the race for AI is like. So the US is involved. A number of US companies are involved, and the Americans have brought them together in Stargate. And then you have China, which is trying something. The Russians are not really involved, in the running, as far as we know. And India is still wondering: should we become an AI power? Should we invest in our own AI models, or should we just use American models to create commodities and solutions to various problems? That's what Nandan Nilekani wants us to do. Yeah, so India is not participating in this race. Only the Americans and the Chinese are. Okay, Ramalakshmi and Pranay Paul. Ramalakshmi says the Chinese open sourced deepseek models are almost beating the OpenAI's own models, and their computation was a fraction of theirs. India should also develop and have India's own models and compete. What do I think? Pranay Paul says, with a small Chinese lab like DeepSeek creating a reasoning LLM, large language model, comparable to ChatGPT's finalist model so far, for just $5.5 million, equivalent to the annual salary of Meta's AI leaders. And achieving this as a side project, what does this say about the Chinese engineering mindset and approach to innovation? Does this challenge the Western narrative that massive budgets and high end infrastructure are essential for AI breakthroughs? And could it reshape the global AI race toward cost efficient, impactful solutions? So, the Chinese firm DeepSeek, I think it's called, or maybe the product is called DeepSeek. So the Chinese have developed this. A Chinese firm has developed this AI system called DeepSeek. So this is a Chinese quantitative trading firm. Okay, quantitative trading is algorithmic trading. You make split second decisions, millisecond, microsecond decisions on the stock market. And you're not day trading, you're not hour trading, you're not second trading, you are nanosecond trading essentially. Every nanosecond counts in this. So they had invested in a tremendous amount of GPU architecture, okay, and to run this quantitative trading system. And they hired over the years the best possible researchers from mathematics and physics backgrounds mainly, and very young guys. 22, 23, 24 is the median age, average age. That's what this firm did. And the Chinese government gave them their full backing. Okay, and as a side project, they created this DeepSeek large language model, because they had this tremendous amount of GPU architecture that they had already acquired for their quantitative trading business, and some of it was not being utilized. So let's maximize the GPUs by developing this large language model on that. So that was the deal. So as a side project, they developed deepseek. Now they say that it cost them about 5.5 million. No, I'm not very sure about that, because they would have needed NVIDIA GPUs for that. And Trump and Biden have essentially banned NVIDIA from selling top of the line GPUs to China. But China would have acquired these GPUs from other places, like from other countries in Asia, like Taiwan, for example, or wherever. So they can't really disclose that we have acquired NVIDIA top of the line GPUs from so and so country, circumventing US sanctions and all that. Now these GPUs, they cost a lot of money, but obviously when you give the figure of 5.5 million, you are not including that amount, that money that you spend on the NVIDIA GPUs in that. So I'm sure it would have cost more than 5.5 million, significantly more. Let's say 50 million or 100 million. Even that's not a tremendous amount of money when it comes to developing a large language model, which supposedly outperforms ChatGPT's O1 model in a lot of ways, right? Um, so it's possible. It's possible. All you need is let's say 10, 20 high quality researchers, programmers, and you sequester them in a building for 6 months. You give them as much money as they need and all the hardware they need, and they're going to do it. So the Chinese have demonstrated that you don't need a lot of money and a lot of resources to develop a world class large language model. So let's say it costs 50 million, including the NVIDIA hardware, GPUs, and all that. Why isn't somebody in India doing it? Because nobody in India seems to have the ambition. We have people like Nandan Nilekani, who said that India should not develop its own models. India should simply use American models and build on top of that. Such people, I don't know what to say about such people. People with no ambition. They have personal ambition for their companies and their business to make as much money as possible, but they don't care about India's position in the world. So yeah, what DeepSeek has achieved, it does tell you that you don't need a tremendous amounts of money, billions and billions of dollars, massive budgets and tremendous infrastructure to become a world leader in AI. It tells us that India can still achieve something if a private company or the Indian government, for example, wants this to happen. Let's say the private companies are not interested because they have no ambition. Let's say, okay, they only seek profits for themselves. They don't care about India's geopolitical position in the world. Why can't the Indian government hire, let's say, 20 or 50 college graduates or university graduates? The average age should be 22, 23, 24. Find the best of the lot, 50 of them maximum, or 20 or 30 of them. You give them a salary of 1 crore a month. You have 20, that's just 20 crore a month, which is nothing, which is peanuts for the government of India. It's not even peanuts for the government of India. The government of India has so much money, you cannot imagine how much money the government has. So hire 25 people, let's say, the best of the lot, give each of them 1 crore a month so that they are happy and they will never complain. That's simply 25 crores a month. Give them all the GPUs and everything they need. Let's say it costs you 20 or 30 or 50 million dollars, which is again nothing for India, nothing for the government of India. You give them everything they need. You put them in a 5-star facility, okay, air conditioned facility. You give them all the food, all the whatever they need, okay. You give them 6 months, 1 year. They're gonna do it. That's all you need. My question is, does the government of India have this ambition? Forget about the private companies, private firms, all the billionaires, they don't care. Why can't the government of India do this? I simply don't understand. I can't comprehend the mindset of the government of India. Maybe they've just accepted that Donald Trump is going to ask us to become a US vassal, and we're going to accept, and that's the best way forward for India going forward. We should not compete with the Americans, otherwise they'll destroy us. Maybe that's the reasoning. Maybe that's sound logic. Maybe that's not. I don't know. I would like to see India show some fight. But at the end of the day, it's not in our hands, right? It's not. RAMALAKSHMI, Pawan Gaonkar, and Sid Barka. The question is about Stargate. The Stargate project of the US, valued at $500 billion, aims to build data centers and become a powerhouse of AI in the next 4 years. Do you think it's even possible in 4 years? We know We know this is all done for compute and training more data, etc. What are your thoughts? Good God, Stargate project is announced with a funding of $500 billion. The crazy thing is that building for Stargate, the building of this project has already started. When will they achieve AGI, artificial general intelligence? Sid Barka says, what are your thoughts on Project Stargate? I mean, who can even compete against $500 billion? Imperial AI, imperial era of AI is upon us. Scary times ahead. Okay, Stargate, a lot of concern if you are not in the US, and the money that is being amount of money that has been announced is mind-boggling. $500 billion, half a trillion, and so on. Right? What's India's defense budget annually? About 80 billion US dollars. Peanuts compared to what they're throwing at Stargate, right? So, what is this Stargate AI project, which has been announced like what the day that Trump was inaugurated, right? It's an artificial intelligence AI initiative announced on the day that Trump was inaugurated, January 21st this year, and they have said that about $500 billion is going to be invested in AI infrastructure across the US the next 4 years, which is by 2029, which will be the AI equivalent of the Manhattan Project, which is the project that developed the nuclear bomb in the US. Now, the question is, who are the main participants in this project? The US government is not a main participant or a key participant in the project. The founding partners, who are they? First of all, there's OpenAI, okay, Sam Altman's company. Then there's something called SoftBank, which comes out of Japan. Then there's Oracle, which is an American company. And then you have a firm called MGX, which is from Abu Dhabi. So the leadership of this target project, the leader, essentially the chairman, is going to be Masayoshi Son, who's the CEO of SoftBank. Okay, he's a tremendously rich person from Japan. So the leadership, the chairman is going to be Masayoshi Son from Japan. The operational aspects of the Stargate project are going to be overseen by OpenAI, that's Sam Altman's company. And the financial operations will be managed by SoftBank, which is again Masayoshi Son. So the initial investment that's been announced is 100 billion. Apparently, it's already been invested, and over the next 4 years, it's going to be ramped up, scaled up to 500 billion. And what you're going to see is the construction. You're going to see construction of multiple data centers across the US. Okay, lots of machines, computers, which will be data centers, racks of machines. And the first such facility is already under construction somewhere in Texas. And initially, there's going to be 10 data centers, and potentially you're going to have more locations, maybe 20 more locations, or that sort of thing. The objective of the project is to create the best AI infrastructure in the world in the US. Okay, it's going to generate jobs, 100,000 or so US jobs. It's going to boost the US economy and maintain US leadership in AI technology. But it's going to provide open AI all the infrastructure it needs to overcome any potential future bottlenecks in data or computing power. So they have this thing going on with Microsoft, this tug of war going on between Sam Altman and Satya Nadella about the Azure computing power and all that. So this project will ensure that OpenAI does not face any future potential bottlenecks, either when it comes to computing power or the amount of data it wants to store and work on. Okay. And obviously, you're going to have the best AI server chips, GPUs, best data center technology. You may have nuclear power being involved in this to meet very high power demands, because all this will take tremendous amounts of power, right? And obviously, for this, you need collaboration with the tech giants like NVIDIA for hardware. For the hardware requirements, and ARM Holdings for software solutions. So all of that. Now, there's been a question about whether there's enough funding. So I'm sure the funding will be there. And the funding is not being put forth by the US government. The US government is not part of this at all. Well, except as an overseer from above. So the funding is going to be put forth by the private companies and investors. Okay. So that's how it's going to be. So this project, it brings together competitors to create a shared AI infrastructure. So in the US, you have competitors, right? You have OpenAI, which is jousting with Microsoft, and there is this thing, there's Nvidia, there is Oracle, there's ARM Holdings, there is SoftBank. Many of these are competitors, especially OpenAI and Microsoft. But they have been brought together in a single project. Who can do it? Somebody bigger and stronger and more powerful can do it, which only means the US government. Okay. Um, so OpenAI and Microsoft are direct competitors, but they will work together on this. And Oracle and Microsoft are also competitors when it comes to cloud services, but they will all work together. And at the end of the day, it's about achieving and ensuring and consolidating US hegemony when it comes to artificial intelligence. So that is the Stargate project. It is kind of scary. It is the final push for complete world domination, essentially. $500 billion. You can I cannot even imagine the things that you can achieve with that. Can nations like China compete with the US? India, I don't even know if we are even bothered to compete, but can China compete with what the Americans are doing? Even the Chinese, I'm sure, can put forth that sort of money, $500 billion. I'm sure the government of China is capable of doing that. But yeah, the ball is, I don't know, it's in the corner of the Chinese and the whoever else wants to compete, because the Americans have made it very clear with this project that they are 100% serious about being the world hegemon for the next 1000 years by doing this. Okay, Lost Child, Vikram Geopolitical, and Shah Nisarg have questions about scramjet engines and the scramjet test that was done recently by India. So, India successfully tested a scramjet engine for the first time. Why don't we use scramjet engines in fighter planes? DRDO has successfully conducted a ground test of a scramjet engine, which can be used in Mach 5 hypersonic missiles. What are my views on this? And what are my thoughts on the DRDO conducting a key test in scramjet technology development? And what is a scramjet engine? And Shah Nisarg has been listening to me for 3 years. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay. So let's begin with what is a scramjet engine, right? A scramjet engine is so there are various kinds of propulsion technologies. Okay, um, when it comes to missiles, you have solid fuel missiles, liquid fuel missiles, which uses cryogenic technology. Then you have scramjets. Now, scramjets are used only for cruise missiles, not for rockets that are supposed to go outside of the atmosphere and place things into orbit. I'll tell you why. So, because of that, you can't even use scramjets for ballistic missiles unless you're using them as one of the first stages or something. Because ballistic missiles, they exit the atmosphere, do a parabolic trajectory, and then re-enter the atmosphere. So, scramjets cannot be used for ballistic missiles unless it's in the first or second stage or something, and they can't be used for the PSLV, GSLV, Starship kind of rockets. You can't. So a scramjet is a super combusting ramjet engine. A ramjet engine is an engine that can accelerate your vehicle to Mach 2 to Mach 5. Mach 1 is 1 times the speed of sound. Mach 2 is twice the speed of sound. Mach 5 is 5 times the speed of sound. Okay. So ramjet engines, they work efficiently at supersonic speeds between Mach 1 to Mach 3. And they can operate up to Mach 5 also, but they become inefficient around Mach 5 and higher than that because of various technical reasons. So a ramjet engine typically works best around Mach 2, Mach 3. The BrahMos missile has a ramjet engine, okay, which is the second stage of the BrahMos. The first stage is a conventional solid state rocket, which accelerates the missile to beyond Mach 1, and then the ramjet takes over, and then it takes the missile to Mach 2 or wherever it is. So that's what a ramjet is, and a scramjet is something that is a super combusting ramjet, supersonic ramjet. So if for a scramjet needs the air inflow into the engine to be at supersonic speeds, and then it will accelerate the missile or the vehicle to hypersonic speeds, which is in excess of Mach 5, Mach 6. Okay. So what is supersonic speed? It is about Mach 1 to Mach 5. Okay. one time one times the speed of sound to five times the speed of sound. Hypersonic speeds are Mach 5 to Mach 10, or maybe Mach 5 to Mach 10. Then you have high hypersonic speeds, which are Mach 10 to Mach 25 thereabouts, and then you have re-entry speeds, which is Mach 25 or higher, which is typically ballistic missiles and meteorites and all that, Mach 25 or higher. So the Russian Zircon missile has a maximum speed of about Mach 9 or Mach 10. It has a scramjet engine. So scramjets, like I said, are designed to they work most efficiently at hypersonic speeds, and ramjets work best at supersonic speeds. And these engines they use. So when you have an engine, you have a fuel and you have an oxidizer. The fuel could be whatever. It could be aviation fuel, which is kerosene. It could be cryogenically liquefied gases like hydrogen or methane, and so on. And your oxidizer is typically oxygen or hydrogen peroxide or whatever. Okay. So in a scramjet and a ramjet, the oxidizer is the oxygen of the atmosphere. So these engines, the only fuel they have is either whatever liquefied hydrogen or methane or maybe some other form of fuel, and the oxidizer is always taken from the atmosphere itself. Okay. Now India has successfully tested about a week or so ago, or recently, a scramjet engine. Is that the first time India has successfully tested a scramjet engine? It's not. So let us go to ISRO's website and take a look at this. This is an article from 2006, January 10, 2006. ISRO achieves breakthrough in supersonic combustion technology. Okay. The Vikram Sarabhai Center of ISRO at Thiruvananthapuram in January 2006 successfully carried out the design, development, characterization, and realization of a scramjet. Through a series of ground tests, a stable supersonic combustion was demonstrated for nearly 7 seconds with a Mach inlet Mach number of 6. Mach 6 times the speed of sound. This was 2006. Okay. Now, then you have this other piece of news, which is from where's the date, bro? One second. I think it's 2016. Yeah. So there was a successful flight testing of a scramjet by ISRO on August 28, 2016. So as you can see, ISRO and whoever in the government of India has been developing a scramjet engine, and the first news that we have is from 2006, where you had a ground test. Then you had a flight test in 2016, and now in 2025 we have carried out another ground test. It looks like. Where is the question? Yeah, ground test. So as you can see, the development is slow, and India becomes one of the few nations with this technology. But we need to put that engine on an actual aircraft or missile and demonstrate that it works fine, and then induct it into the armed forces. That's what we need to do. It's been more than 20 years we've been developing this. Now, what I'm saying is not criticism of the engineers who are working on this. This is a very difficult technology to master. When your air intake has supersonic speeds, it's very hard to sustain combustion in that case. It's like trying to keep a candle lit during a hurricane, during a cyclone. It's almost impossible, but you got to master this technology. So it takes time to do this, but we have been doing this for quite some time, and I think now it's time for us to finally deploy this technology, hopefully. Of course, you have to give some criticism, because development of technology in India takes a very long time, longer than it typically should. And it's not the fault of the engineers and scientists. It's typically because of the bureaucracy and the slow speed at which your funding is allocated and all that. So a lot has to do with the bureaucracy, and a lot has to do with the political leadership, which maybe don't see these technologies as something that is high priority over freebies and all that. I don't know. I'm just saying. So I think it's a great thing that we have conducted this test. I think we need to take it to its logical conclusion and deploy this technology operationally. Now, the first question by Lost Child over here is, why don't we use scramjet engines in jet planes? So let's say you have a fighter plane like the Tejas, which can go above Mach 1, which is a supersonic fighter plane. Let's say you put a scramjet engine on a Tejas fighter plane. What's going to happen? First of all, you will have to first take the aircraft supersonic in order to be able to ignite the scramjet. So how do you make the aircraft go supersonic in the first place? You will need some other form of propulsion first. Okay. So the scramjet engine, you cannot start it when the plane is stationary on the ground. You can't even start it when the plane is flying at 500 kilometers per hour. It has to go beyond Mach 1. Only then can you ignite the scramjet engine. That's the first thing. Okay. Secondly, let's say you put a rocket booster on the Tejas and you put two scramjet engines on the Tejas, or one, let's say, and then you use the rocket booster for the initial Mach 1 plus boost, and then you ignite the scramjet. Okay, let's say. Then the scramjet will ignite. It's going to go hypersonic. It's going to go beyond Mach 5. Can this airframe of the Tejas fighter plane, or the Sukhoi 30, or Sukhoi 57, or the Jaguar, or the Rafale, whichever fighter plane you can imagine, can the airframe of that fighter plane withstand a Mach 5 plus flight or Mach 6 plus flight? Because at that speed, the air resistance and the friction with the molecules of the atmosphere is going to cause the airframe to have a temperature of hundreds of degrees centigrade. Hundreds of degrees centigrade. Can the airframe withstand that? Can the glass canopy of the cockpit withstand that temperature? It's going to start glowing red. You need special materials for that. Like, for example, the materials that were used in the SR-81, was it? Blackbird. What was it called? SR-81 Blackbird. SR-71 Blackbird. Yes, SR-71 Blackbird. If you want to see what I'm talking about, let me put that on the screen. So the Americans had a hypersonic plane, the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. And this aircraft was coated with a special material, and it had all kinds of measures taken that ensure that its structure did not combust or burn up because of the extreme heat and pressure of the atmosphere at those speeds. So a typical normal fighter plane like the Tejas or the Sukhoi 57 or the Sukhoi 30 or Sukhoi 35 or Rafale or whatever can't withstand those speeds. It can't. They're not designed to withstand those speeds. You need a whole different kind of design and shape of the aircraft to be able to withstand hypersonic speeds. It's going to be shaped like a rocket, essentially, right? There is that. And secondly, if you have a fighter plane that's hypersonic, it won't be able to maneuver the way a standard fighter plane can maneuver at Mach 1 or Mach 2. See, you have some fighter planes that are very maneuverable. Like the MiG-21 was the legendary MiG-21, which is now a museum piece, but we still operate it. It's very maneuverable. The Sukhoi fighter planes, because of thrust vectoring, are very maneuverable. They can do the Pugachev Cobra and such maneuvers. When you have a hypersonic plane, you can't do all that hyper maneuvering. And you're traveling so fast, you can't even indulge in dogfights. So you can't have hypersonic engines, scramjets, on a fighter plane. You simply can't, because then you can't maneuver at that speed. That maneuvering, dogfighting, all that. So you can use it for reconnaissance planes or missiles. The best use for scramjets is on missiles. So if you want a hypersonic BrahMos, a Mach 9, Mach 10 BrahMos, new version, then you would use a scramjet on it. Right now we use a ramjet. So that's the deal, and it's great that India has tested this technology and developed, shown that we can use it and we are capable of doing it. But we need to take it to its logical conclusion, test it in the air multiple times, and then deploy it. Build new missiles or whatever that use this engine and deploy it operationally. That's what we need to do. Vikram Geopolitical says the ISI chief was recently on a trip to Bangladesh and has agreed on various terms, including sharing intelligence, etc. Bangladesh is also planning to buy 32 JF-17s from Pakistan. Should India be worried about this? Can Pakistan, Bangladesh, and China together put a threat to Siliguri corridor and sovereignty of Northeast India? Okay, first of all, let's understand who's involved. Which big power is involved in this? In 2022, Imran Khan was ousted from power in West Pakistan, right? And who I think it was Shahbaz Sharif or whoever who came to power who was put in the seat of prime minister, and this was a coup. And this coup was orchestrated by the Americans. And after the ouster of Imran Khan, West Pakistan once again became a US vassal, a US puppet, US vassal, US client state, West Pakistan. Now Sheikh Hasina has been ousted last year from East Pakistan, which was Bangladesh, and now you have a pro-US puppet government in Bangladesh or East Pakistan, and the nominal head is Mohammed Yunus. So both East and West Pakistan are US proxies, are US vassals. Now, do you know what China is? China is the number 2 adversary of the US after Russia. You think 2 US vassals will cooperate with a US adversary? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So I don't think China is cooperating with Pakistan and Bangladesh right now. It's not possible for them to do that because both Pakistan and Bangladesh are US vassals. Please understand the simple logic. I'm not saying that China is a great friend of India's. China is an adversary. Okay. And right now there may be some kind of rapprochement, some kind of détente, some kind of thaw in relations, but India will have to be very careful each step of the way in dealing with China. So I don't see China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh coming together to put a threat to the Siliguri corridor. No, the threat to the Siliguri corridor comes only from China. Bangladesh is no match for India. If the Bangladeshis try to make a move on the Siliguri corridor, we can slice their country into 5 pieces if we want. The Indian military is capable of doing that very easily. If the Bangladeshis acquire fighter planes from Pakistan, JF-17s or whatever, it could make things a little bit more headache worthy for India. But still, we can deal with Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is not a military threat to India of any kind. They are a nuisance for India because of their status as newly minted status as a US vassal. There is that. Now, when it comes to the northeast, the far east of India, the Chinese wanted to break it off from India. They still may have forces over there that are Chinese proxies, so that's a deal. That's thing. And Bangladesh is going to cause a lot of trouble for India in this region, in Tripura, and wherever else they can. So yeah, it's going to be a growing headache for India. You're going to have more infiltration. You're going to have more terrorism, more separatism, and so on. So yeah, it's a very complicated situation in India's Far East. China is not really a friend. Okay, China has historically been an adversary in this region. They have funded and financed various terrorist and separatist organizations going back to the 1950s and 1960s in the Far East of India. Okay, the Americans are right now involved in this Project K operation in the region to create an artificial Christian cookie nation out of parts of Burma, parts of Mizoram and Manipur, and parts of Bangladesh, possibly. The Americans may be in the process soon of building a military base out of St. Martin's Island, which is in the region. So it's complicated. And Bangladesh is now very hostile towards India. And you are seeing all kinds of trouble on the border. And obviously, we have had this issue. It is our mistake. It's our fault, our failing that our border security force allegedly has been. Allegedly, I'm saying allegedly. Look at the media reports on all that. How many officers have been jailed and court-martialed? So the BSF and other paramilitary forces, whoever else may or may not be involved, have allegedly been complicit in bringing Bangladeshi infiltrators into India in very large numbers. So all kinds of problems. The central government has had 10 years plus to deal with this thing, and nothing has been done thus far. So it's very, very unfortunate. But yeah, it's going to be an increasing headache for India, this whole situation for us. Okay. Ilian Gran from Armenia says, the Azerbaijan people call us Indians, call us Armenians Indians. They think they're insulting us, but they don't understand that not only are we not offended, but we have also received the opportunity to be friends with one of the fastest growing countries in the world. Yes, If you see the chatter on social media, you will see Turkish people and Azerbaijani people calling Armenians Indians. And they use this term Indians as an insult towards the Armenians. Why do they do this? Why do they call Armenians Indians? Right? Well, the fact is that there are historical ties between India and Armenia going back more than 2,000 years, going back maybe more than 2,500 years. Uh, there is some kind of connection between India and Armenia. I'm not sure what it is. We know that there were some Hindu temples in Armenia 2,000 years ago, which were destroyed, and churches were built on top of them. And then those churches have recently been destroyed, and mosques have been built on top of them by the Azerbaijanis. That sort of thing. So there have been very ancient relations between India and Armenia. Uh, there is some kind of genetic affinity also between India and Armenia. I hope in the future geneticists can uncover what the deep history is. But anyway, whatever that be, the Turks and the Azerbaijanis try to insult Armenians by calling them Indians, because Armenians are not white-skinned people. They have slightly light brown skin or whatever, and that's why the Turks like to insult them by calling them Indians. And India has been supplying Armenia with weaponry, weapon systems, radars, arms, ammunition, missiles, rockets, all that, in its uh, struggle to stay independent and continue to exist as a nation. Because the Turks and the Azerbaijanis want to destroy Armenia, right, and create this Pan-Turan corridor. And India is essentially the only nation that's helping Armenia. And against Armenia, you have nations like Turkey, Azerbaijan, even Israel. So India and Israel are adversaries in this conflict. Interesting, isn't it? So one of the few friends Armenia has is India. And so the Turks, obviously because of that, also are they like to insult think that they can insult the Armenians by calling them Indians. But so it's unfortunate that Armenia is in this situation, and it's good that India is supporting Armenia, and I think we should continue the support to Armenia. Armenia is one of the oldest uh, cultures in the world. At least 2,500 years it has existed. It's probably the first Christian nation in the world. Probably the first nation that became Christian. I'll not go into that history, but and Armenians have traded with India for centuries. If you go to places like Surat, for example, you will find a place called, I think it's called the Dutch Cemetery or something, where you have Armenian graves also that go back about 400-500 years. And the Armenians did not come to India to plunder India, unlike the Dutch and the Portuguese and the English. The Armenians were simply traders. So good people. So I think we should be friends with Armenia. We should support the Armenians, the good people of Armenia, and let the Turks think that they can insult you. How do we care? Okay, Mr. Carrot and Luffy Soturo say, the JFK files are going to be declassified. Do you think they will reveal anything? And Trump declassified the JFK files today. Do you think they will reveal the truth that the CIA allegedly themselves killed John F. Kennedy? What do I think is going to happen? Do my friends, my viewers, do you remember several years ago, Prime Minister Modi declassified the Subhash Chandra Bose files? Okay? And a whole lot of documents were made public. Did they reveal anything about the big mystery? Nothing, right? So Trump is gonna I think he has declassified the JFK files. It's gonna reveal nothing whatsoever. It will throw no new light on the mystery of who killed John F. Kennedy. Okay? It's gonna make no difference in the world. It'll shed no new light on who really was behind the killing of John F. Kennedy. And I saw some of those images, scanned images of some of the documents that were declassified. A whole document with every single line of text blacked out. So you can see the date and some header and some footer, and everything else in between is blacked out. Do you call that declassification? Really? So it's going to make no difference. It's going to shed no light on what really happened and who really was behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Okay, and I'm not going to go into the what shall we call, speculation, conspiracy theories, or whatever, right? About who may have been behind this. I obviously have my own hunch, but I'm not gonna air that because there's no evidence. Okay, it's all speculation without actual hard evidence to back it up. Okay, I mean, what am Vedit God? Okay, whatever the name is. The question is, I am an Indian student currently studying BSc Honors Physics. Good job in the UK. तो हमारा आदमी है. Long time viewer of yours, but asking a question for the first time. The reason I'm studying here is simple: lack of meritocracy in India, especially after the 12th standard. I completely understand, my friend. I want to know your opinion on Indian politicians choosing to spend estimated 2 trillion rupees or 21 billion US dollars annually on freebies. Do these idiots really not see further than the upcoming election? Forget planning for a century ahead. AI and quantum technology is something more than a decade away, and yet we are not spending anything there. That is why sometimes my blood boils when most politicians and their blind followers on both sides say that we simply don't have the funds. That is, in most simple terms, buying out the votes. So what you are speaking about is the ground reality of politics in India. No matter which political party you're from, or no matter who you are in politics, your existence and relevance in politics is solely dependent on how many votes you get, right? And in India, to get votes, the easiest way to do that is to polarize the public, and then that's one. And number two, to give freebies. Because the education system in India is so abysmal and pathetic that people don't realize that freebies will not advance you in life, in your family, in life, in your country. But the education system has ensured that people remain mentally lobotomized and don't understand that freebies are bad. So the education system perpetuates the situation in India where you have to keep giving freebies to people to get votes. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. And I've been saying for God knows how long that we need to reform the education system. Nothing has been done. And you have freebies being given out by every political party. Doesn't matter which political party it is. So yes, India's politicians they simply cannot afford to look beyond the upcoming elections. It's always short-term thinking. That's what the system in India that exists in India has been designed to do. It's been designed to keep India a mediocre nation that doesn't achieve anything close to what its potential is. And the politicians who are in India, who exist in India and who are in power, they have come to power because of this system. So why will they change it? So because of this political system, India is doomed to continue wallowing in mediocrity. Unless there is a leader with the cojones to take the system by the scruff of its neck and change it. But we don't have any politicians of that stature in India today. So that's where India is today. India is going to continue being the way it is. India was colonized. After 1947, India supposedly got its independence, but we have this system in India which essentially makes us again colonized. So you are absolutely right, my friend here. I understand why you left India, because of the lack of merit, which is another tremendous problem in India. You have freebies, and then you have this system where there is no respect for merit in this country, which is simply a way of telling people, those of you who can should leave the country, and those of you who can't should remain behind and try and do rent seeking from whatever is left. So the difference between India and China essentially is that the Chinese have a centralized system, a one-party state, a dictatorship, and a dictatorship, if you look at all this, is clearly superior to a democracy. Democracy is you going down to the lowest common denominator. Okay, a dictatorship can be good or bad. If you have an evil tyrant as the dictator, it's going to be bad for the people. But if you have a good person as a dictator, a reasonably good person as a dictator, then your country can achieve things that are close to its full potential. And a good example for India is Ashok Maurya, the great emperor. As a person, he was not a very nice person. He was a dangerous person to be near. But as an emperor, he was one of the best emperors we had. So even a tyrant can be great for the country, for the civilization. But that only works in a dictatorship. In democracy, it's all about mediocrity. It's all about going all the way down to the lowest common denominator, which is all this culture of non-merit and freebies. So that's the situation in India today. And that's why everybody wants to leave the country. And how can we blame them? Vikram Geopolitical says recent Oxfam report says that the British looted $64 trillion worth of money from the Indian subcontinent. What are my views? Yeah, so the figure that was out there earlier was $45 trillion. Now Oxfam, which is the left-leaning organization, by the way, it says that the British looted $64 trillion worth of value out of India. Now India's left-leaning historians, the court historians who were in favor and vogue for the most part of India's post 1947 history, what will they do about this? They can't do a thing about this because Oxfam is a super left-leaning organization, and they themselves have put out this figure. What are my views about this? I'm not surprised. I won't be surprised if the actual figure is in excess of 100 trillion. I'm not surprised at all. I will not be surprised if the actual figure turns out to be in excess of $100 trillion worth of today's money. That's how they enriched themselves, the British and the West, at our expense. But don't blame them. We should have been strong enough to resist. Krishna Raghunath from Suriname says, do you think there are more undiscovered archaeological sites in the subcontinent with the same age as the IVC, the Indus Valley civilization? So 2000 BCE to 3000 BCE or older than that. I think it is reasonably well known that if you look at the dry riverbed of the Saraswati, which starts all the way near the Himalayas and it extends all the way into Kutch, which is Western India. If you look at the dry riverbed of this great ancient river, which no longer exists mostly, then there are more than 2,000 unexplored archaeological sites along this dry riverbed of this just one river. Okay? And there are so many other archaeological sites in the north and west part of India and maybe other parts of India as well. So there are thousands of untouched, unexplored, and undiscovered archaeological sites all across India, maybe tens of thousands. And the oldest archaeological site that we know of that is a part of the so-called Saraswati Sindhu civilization or Indus Valley or Harappan civilization, the oldest known archaeological site is Bhirana in Haryana. And it's been carbon dated to about 7,500 BC, which is about 9,500 years before today. Okay, roughly. Now, if you have thousands of unexplored archaeological sites, I can assure you that some of them are going to be older than 10,000 years before today, maybe 15,000 years before today. We simply haven't even started looking at them. So it's guaranteed you're going to have thousands of sites which are super, super old, maybe more than 10,000 BC. It's guaranteed. But the ASI, look, I don't blame the ASI. The ASI, after all, does whatever the government tells it to do. And the ASI Archaeological Survey of India, I think it comes under the Ministry of what? Culture? Or something, which is one of the worst ministries, the worst performing ministries, in my opinion, in this country. But yeah, it's guaranteed you will have thousands of archaeological sites older than 3000 BC, maybe older than 10,000 BC. Quite possible. Okay. The Feminist Slayer says, why did the USSR promise to transfer cryogenic engine technology to India for its space program, but after the breakup and Russia's emergence, the decision of the technology transfer was reversed? So India and Russia had this deal that they would sell us a number of cryogenic engines and also transfer the technology. That's in the last days of the USSR. And then the USSR broke up and Gorbachev was ousted and Boris Yeltsin came to power. Boris Yeltsin was a Western stooge, a US stooge. And he did whatever the Americans told him. So that's why they denied India the technology, which forced ISRO to develop its own cryogenic rocket engine, and we have that now. So in a way, maybe it was good for us that we were able to develop it ourselves. Obviously, it set our program back by a couple of decades, perhaps. That's how it goes. So the Americans arm twisted Russia into denying India the technology. That's what happened. Tommy Shelley says, how come the Anglo-Saxons from their little island managed to formulate or create the biggest empire in human history, with the most influence to this date and probably in the next 1,000 years to come? What can we Indians learn from it and implement in our lives collectively, getting past our weak victimhood and divided mentality? Okay, so today, if you look at Western historians and all that, they will tell you that the West came out on top, okay, because of the superiority of its ideas and values and religion and culture. The West was superior all round, and that's why they were able to conquer the world. That's what they will tell you. That's the myth they've created, okay. And the West is led by the Anglos, the Anglo-Saxons, the English-speaking world. The truth is that the West conquered the world not because of the superiority of its culture or ideas or values or religion or whatever. The West conquered the world because of its superiority in applying systematic organized violence. That's all. That's why they won the world. That's why they conquered the world. So what should India learn from it? We need to be better than everybody else in applying systematic organized violence, or at least in being capable of doing it and countering this. That's what we need to learn. We still haven't learned that. Okay, otherwise we would have the most powerful military in the world, but we haven't learned that. Otherwise we would have the most powerful air force in the world. We don't even have the most powerful air force in Asia. The Chinese are way better than us, and maybe soon Pakistan will be better than us. So we don't learn from history. We learn, but our leaders don't learn. So that is what we Indians can learn from it. The West and the Anglos prevailed because they were better than everybody else. They were best in applying systematic organized violence. That's why they were able to conquer India. They were able to conquer the Americas and everything else, Africa and everything else. Geopolitical Dubey says, can a strong magnetic field be generated artificially? Yes, of course. See, it's all about it all boils down to electromagnetism. Yeah, that's the electromagnetic force, which has two components, electricity and magnetism. So yes, a strong magnetic field can be generated artificially, and to do that you need something called an electromagnet. So in an electromagnet you have a strong current, a high current flowing through a coil of wire, and this creates a magnetic field. So you have devices like MRI machines, okay, which use this principle to produce powerful magnetic fields for imaging purposes. So that's how it is done. So the simplest method is to use something called a solenoid. It's a coil of wire with a high current flowing through it, and you can enhance this by adding an iron core to amplify the field. So that's how you can create a strong artificial magnetic field using a solenoid. And now there are limitations because of factors like heat generation. When you have a strong current passing through a wire, because of the resistivity of the wire or the material of the material used in the coil, you're going to have heat that's generated, and eventually it may cause the material to melt down or burn down, that sort of thing. And that's where superconductivity comes in. If you have superconducting magnets, then essentially the resistance is zero, and then you can have much higher currents without significant heat loss. So that's something we discussed, I think, in last week's episode, superconductivity. So yes, absolutely, a strong magnetic field can indeed be generated artificially. Yes. Abhijit Banerjee says, why is the JEE, Joint Entrance Examination of the IITs, the second hardest examination in the whole world, when the old IITs don't even come under the top 500 colleges in the world? Is the JEE/IIT overrated? This is a classic India problem. You have the JE, the joint entrance exam, which apparently is the second hardest examination in the world. And so many students go study for this, and so many of them crack it, right? So you clearly have a population that is super smart, super intelligent. And if you crack the JEE, you get a placement in an Indian Institute of Technology, IIT. And none of the IITs is even in the top 500 colleges in the world. So you have a super capable, super smart, super intelligent population, bright young kids, and you have a rotten system. That's India today. And we could have done something about the rotten system in the past 10 years. But have we? We haven't. So you have an extremely capable, extremely brilliant, bright, capable, energetic population, young population. It's full of the best potential in the world, and their potential is being wasted by this rotten system. That's the deal. So the JEE is not overrated. It tells you how brilliant Indians are. The IITs are garbage. Sadly, I'm not saying all of them are garbage. I'm sure they have some good professors. Maybe 5% of the professors and staff are top class. But the facilities are ghastly, especially the engineering facilities, especially the instruments that you get. Okay, in the IITs, there's tremendous funding. You will have 5-star quality conference rooms. You will have washrooms in which they've spent crores of rupees. But if you look at the lab equipment, it's 25, 30 years behind today. That's what you will typically face in an IIT. And it all boils down to the bureaucrats and the staff that are in charge of the decision making and the budgets in the IITs. It's the Indian education system, the academic system is just rotten to the core. Okay, that's the problem. So why hasn't our leadership, why haven't our elected leaders changed this, reformed this? Well, I am not the person who can answer that question. So yeah, that's India for you. A nation with tremendous, unlimited potential, which is being held to ransom by the political class and the mediocre bureaucrats. Kataktits ton ektron. Okay, I don't know what it means in Greek, but yeah. Says that I am Abhijit Banerjee. I hope you remember me. I want a serious help from you. I am in standard 10 right now. My board exams are approaching. ICSE board. My parents want me to ace my board examinations, but I haven't started studying seriously yet. I find studying too boring. I can empathize. Okay, continuing. My parents also want me to do the JEE preparation, as 2 guys from my colony have got into IITs. But since I have no other talent like arts, music, sport, etc., I have to ultimately abide by my parents. I'm also studying to get good grades, and I'll be doing JEE prep only to get an IIT degree. Any suggestions or advice for me? This is a situation that lots of youngsters find themselves in. You are told by your parents, you have to study. Study. You must love studying. You must study 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And when you ask them, why should I study? They'll say, you must study because I am telling you to study. Shut up, keep quiet and study. You must love studying. But you're not able to see why you have to study and what's the point of studying and what will it give you if you spend the best years of your life, the formative years of life, 10, 12, 15 hours studying in a day. And you don't do anything at all that you enjoy. You just study. What's the point, right? That's the problem that students face. And I completely empathize. And at the end of the day, you study so much, you get a goddamn degree from an IIT. At the end of the day, you're going to end up being in some corporation obeying orders, right? That's the problem. India doesn't give you opportunities. At best, you can get a good degree and go abroad and have a slightly better life outside of the country. That's the deal. So what should you do? You are in standard 10. Your board exam is approaching. The thing is this, look, you can look at it from 2 perspectives. First of all, if you don't do well in your 10th standard exam, you will not be able to get into a good college or whatever. Okay, of course, if you do well in the 12th, then you'll be fine. But yeah, it makes sense to get good marks at the 10th standard level. So if you do that, if you have a good academic record, 10th and 12th and all that, then you can get into a good college and you can get a job which is high paying and good status and all that. And if you don't have a good academic record, then you will not get any of that, and you will have to have a job that you will not enjoy that much. So yeah, you can let fear motivate you, that if I don't study now, if I don't start studying, and if I don't do all these things like my parents say, then I will not have a good future. I will not have a high paying salary. I won't be able to have a 3-story bungalow, or you know, Land Rovers or BMWs or whatever. I won't get to marry a good girl or whatever. That's one way of motivating yourself through fear. The other motivation is you should know what you want in life. Hopefully, you have some big dream, and maybe getting those good grades and all will help you achieve the dream. Uh, so yeah, since I don't know you personally and I don't know what your long-term dreams, goals, objectives are, I can only tell you that one of the stepping stones in India in today's system to achieving your big goals and dreams, and having a good life long term, is to do well in exams. So that's what I would say. What is my suggestion to you? Do what your parents say. They are probably right. I know study is boring and all that, but I'm sure there are certain subjects at least that you find interesting. Maybe you can let that motivate you. The point is you have to do well in studies in the current system. So you have no choice at the end of the day. So I would say whatever motivates you, whatever lights your fire, whether it is the fear of not doing well and having a bad life, or the allure of a great life, whatever motivates you, use it as a fuel and get serious about your studies and go for it. And JE prep, I mean, from my perspective, JE prep is actually fun. It's all science, right? I'm a science guy. I love science, solving problems and all. So from my perspective, it was fun. It would have been fun. So my advice is get serious, study for your exams, do well, and have a great life. And hopefully you have a great life when you make a lot of money, and then by a certain age, by your 30s or whatever, maybe you have made enough money to no longer have to work, and then you can do something that really uh, is something that you enjoy. So you have to find your motivation, you have to find your fuel, you have to have your own big goals and hopes and aspirations, and yeah, you got to study for that. Right? That's what I would suggest. Study, get serious. All the best. Okay, Reddy says how to read a book or learn a topic exactly. As you said, there's no need to remember everything or anything while reading. I'm simply reading a book like a novel, and I forgot, I forgot everything. Next time if I open the same book, it feels like a new book. If I don't remember anything, then what's the point of reading? Please answer. It's very confusing. Look, if you ask me to open a book, which is a textbook for your LLB course or whatever, I may be able to read the whole book in a day. Tomorrow morning when I wake up and I open it, it'll be like a new book to me, because I have absolutely no goddamned interest in LLB or law. If you ask me to study business law or whatever, same thing. It has no interest for me whatsoever, because it has no relevance to my life. Okay? But if there is some part of business law or whatever that is relevant to my life and my work, then I'll suddenly be very interested in it. And that portion I'll read and I'll remember that. So my point is that if you are made to read something that you have absolutely no interest in, then even if you force yourself to read the entire book in one day or in 3 days or whatever, the next time you pick up the book, it will be like a new book, because nothing was retained, because you have no interest in it. There's nothing confusing about it. You will be able to remember stuff only if you find it interesting. Maybe it's an interesting topic, but the writer has presented it in a very boring or very confusing way. Then once again, you won't be able to remember what was written. But if you pick up another book from a different writer on the same topic, you may be able to remember it. So there are multiple reasons for this. One, maybe you're not interested in the topic at all. Second, maybe the writer is terrible. There are books on physics I've seen that that were written by terrible writers. What was the guy's name? Maybe you should know. A guy from IIT Bombay, I forget his name right now. Such a terrible book he wrote about nuclear physics. God, my God. So yeah, that happens. Even if you find the subject interesting, if the writer is terrible, and if it's the presentation is not logical, then you won't remember it. So that's the thing. So yeah, so you got to find a solution for your problem. Understand by understanding this. All right, I think I will now take some questions from the live chat. From the live chat. Mm, so if you have questions that you would like me to take, please ask me the questions right now in the live chat. And let's see. Ujwal Mukkati says, I think India currently has best engineers but not scientists. We need super scientists to become Vishwaguru. How do you think? Look, Vishwaguru, forget about this term Vishwaguru. I don't like this term Vishwaguru. We are not even Vishwa student right now. That's how bad we are. Now, coming to your point, you may be right actually to a large extent. We have extremely good engineers. Look at ISRO. ISRO, the people who work at ISRO are not scientists. They're not rocket scientists. They're engineers. But the media says they're rocket scientists. They're not scientists. They're engineers, and they are really high quality engineers. So what is engineering? Engineering is applied science. You apply it in the real world. What is pure science? It's theoretical. Einstein, Newton, Heisenberg, Schrödinger, all that. That's theoretical physics. That's real pure science. We don't seem to have good pure scientists right now. I mean, can you think of a single breakthrough in science that has come out of India in the past 50 years? High quality. We have many scientists who teach in various institutions and all, but what is their contribution to science? So you are right. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you what. There are lots of Indian origin scientists, high quality scientists who are working outside of India. So once again, it comes back to the problem that we have in India, that there is no merit and the education system is ghastly and terrible. The academic system is rotten. Our institutions are crap, all that. So that's why our best minds, they go abroad. Yeah, we do need super scientists. See, you need two things to become a technological power. You need people who can achieve breakthroughs in the pure sciences, and then you need people who can take those breakthroughs and apply them in the real world. So that's scientists and engineers. You need both. And the system that we have, the academic system, the higher education system that we have, it is not geared for doing this. Our academic system excels at identifying and destroying talent, or forcing it to migrate out of the country, and it only promotes and respects mediocrity. That's the problem. That's what I've been highlighting for years. But I think our system loves mediocrity. That's why it doesn't change. But you are right, Ujwal. I largely agree with you. All right. Geopolitical Dubey says, what is sound? Sound. So sound essentially at the basic physical level is vibrations in a medium. Vibrations in a medium. And if the frequency of those vibrations lies within the auditory range, the audible range of the human ear, then we perceive that as sound. So you make a sound, okay, you snap your fingers, it's going to produce vibrations in the air. Okay, it's going to vibrate the air, this snap. Now the frequency of the vibrations, because it falls within the range of our ears, that's why we hear it. And this, you can also do it with metal or wood or whatever, with various substances. So as long as the vibrations, the frequency is within the audible range, you perceive that as sound. So the vibrations, it vibrates the air. It also vibrates the air over here, and then the vibrations, they create sympathetic vibrations in the eardrum, and then there is this entire apparatus that translates those vibrations into electrical signals that are then funneled into the brain, and the auditory cortex or whatever it is, it interprets that as sound. So that is sound. Okay. Vivek Manak says, can digital data be stored between DNA molecules? I think you can store digital data in DNA molecules, not between, but in DNA molecules. DNA storage, you can do it. So in DNA, you typically have the genome that's encoded in the DNA, and there are and you have all those chemicals, ATG, adenosine, tryptophan, guanine, etc. But you can use those configurations, all of that, to store actual data. I mean, actual data as in data that's digital, you would otherwise store digitally or whatever. You can store that in DNA. You can do that. It's possible, definitely. Yes, right. Um, the Chandeliers says, "Can you explain time and space in plain English? Is time linear or cycling?" Look, according to mythology and culture and etc., especially the Indian culture, you have the cycle of yugas, etc., which is a kind of a repeating pattern. Okay, and you will have some scientists who will say the time is not linear; it is cyclic and all. I don't know about that. Okay, I don't have that much mental bandwidth. I don't understand that. I've not understood what they've said. Um, but to answer your question, what is time? What is space? In plain simple English, it's dimensions. Okay, so we know the three dimensions. The physicists will like doing this. The right hand rule and all that. So you have three dimensions: length, breadth, and width. Right? Length, breadth, and height. Three dimensions. Let's say you have a square or a rectangle. It has three dimensions. There is length, there is height, and there is width. Right? So that is space. And then there is a fourth dimension, according to general relativity, which is the dimension of time. So you can think of it as four dimensions. Obviously, we cannot visualize four-dimensional space because we are three-dimensional creatures and we don't perceive time very, very strongly. It's kind of vague, the perception of time. But in the simplest way I can explain to you, it's four dimensions. And the four dimensions, they together form the fabric of space-time, which is the stage on which the universe exists and in which things happen. That's what I could tell you in the simplest possible way. Um, Ronit Sahu says, "Can yogi save us from being a vassal?" Interesting question you're asking me here. I There's a saying, right? What takes you from 1 to 10 cannot take you from 10 to 100. So whatever was able to take you, you were at 1 and you wanted to reach 10, and you were able to reach 10. Whatever it is that took you from 1 to 10 will not be able to take you from 10 to 100. You need something else, a different solution. Now, what is that solution is a question. What can save India from being a vassal is also a question over here. The only thing that can save India from being a vassal is hard power. Now, how do you build hard power? You need the right vision, you need the right leadership. So, leadership is definitely a factor. Um, can Yogi be the leader who will give India the kind of hard power that prevents us from falling into this vassal trap? I don't know. One would hope so. But the vassal trap could happen in the next 1 or 2 years. It could happen right now. If Trump tomorrow calls up, "Hey, Narendra, you got a choice. You got to make a choice. You're either with me or against me. And if you're against me, I'm going to destroy you." And that's a simple ultimatum, and you have to immediately do what he wants you to do. Then Mr. Yogi could be 5 years from now. It's too far away. So we don't know. We don't know. For India to not be a vassal, you need to be at least as powerful as China is right now. China is about 3.5 or 4 times more powerful than India, with a much better system, a non-corrupt or less corrupt system, and a system that is geared towards the national interest. In India, it's not. Our political system is just, it doesn't prioritize the national interest. It's a short-term worldview that the politicians have. So yeah, many problems that India faces right now. I would love to see Mr. Yogi being the prime minister someday. But maybe it'll be too far down the line. Maybe by the time we may have become a vassal, which may not be a bad thing for India. We have already gone through 1,000 years of history. Maybe 100 more. Who knows? May not be that bad. I would love to say nice things and be very positive, but I better be honest with you, don't you think? Um, Mancheda says, how important is the $10 trillion mark for a nation? Your thoughts on the fact that India, which was a metallurgy hub, can't make steel for the Kaveri engine? Thoughts on Italy invitation for 6th gen? I don't know, like four questions. I'll take maybe one or two. The $10 trillion mark is a good psychological barrier to cross. It's like if you're a cricketer, if you're a batsman, if you're out on 100 or 99, or if you reach 100, it's a big psychological thing. It's just a difference of one run, right? But it's a huge psychological mark. So if you reach that mark of $10 trillion of economy, then it's like a huge morale booster for the people of the country. It brings everyone together. It brings this huge wave of optimism, and you can do anything, that sort of thing. So it's a great psychological mark. And of course, $10 trillion of having an economy of that size is no joke, right? So it's very important for us, right? India was a metallurgy hub back in the day. We were deindustrialized by the British, yes, and now we can't make steel for the Kaveri engine. Look, it's okay. I've spoken about the engine issue a lot. We've got to start a program. We've got to sustain it for 20, 30 years. It takes time to mature your technology. So, and of course, you have to identify the key technologies that you need going forward, the technologies that are key to India becoming a great power. You have to identify what those are. Materials science is one of those. Artificial intelligence is another. Quantum computing is another. Supercomputing is another. Semiconductors is another. Rare earth metals, we need access to those. So that's a vital thing. Lithium is another vital thing. Of course, energy independence, all those things. You have to identify what is crucial for your nation and can be a deal breaker in your becoming a great power going forward. And then you have to prioritize those, invest in those things, and ensure that the capabilities mature. This needs a long-term vision. When you have politicians who are looking at the next 5 years at most, they will not care about these things unless you're a visionary politician. But we don't have those in this country. So sad. Okay, let's take one or two more questions and then we will be done for today's episode. I don't. What do we have? What do we have? Lots of questions. So we we have Joe Rogan. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Big fan. Tell us about the PD race map. Did Knights of Templar travel the world before Columbus and Magellan? I'm sorry, I don't know what the PD race map is. Maybe I will Google it and find out with you. What is PD race? Let's go to Google for the last question for today. PD race map. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know about this. It was a world map compiled in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral and cartographer P.D. Reis. About 1/3 of this map survives. Let's take a look at what it looks like, this map. Let us go to tools and we will say that we want large images, size large. And then we see, what does it show? It seems to show interesting stuff. Does it show Antarctica, etc.? I think it shows Antarctica. I think I must have come up across this before. It seems to show Antarctica. So yeah, maybe somebody had discovered Antarctica before Columbus. We don't know. Was it the Knights Templar? Was it somebody else? Was it the Ottomans? I don't know. But it's interesting that this map exists, and it seems to depict parts of Antarctica further down from South America. It does, and it's from 1513, which is like before anybody supposedly discovered Antarctica. Big mystery, and I don't think we know. I don't think we know why. We don't know the answer to this question, right? So interesting and big mystery, etc. Yeah. Shall we take another question? Rima Das says, was Hitler a great leader? What do you want me to say? Look, was he a great leader? He failed. And with his failure, his country was destroyed. So from that perspective itself, the non-negotiable quality a leader must have. Understand this, Indians. The one quality that you cannot negotiate with in a leader, the one quality that is indispensable, that you need to have in a leader, is that a leader must succeed. A leader cannot fail. If a leader fails, you have to throw them out. You can't tolerate a leader who fails. And we in India tolerate leaders who fail. It's okay to have some small failures along the way. It's like you want to win the World Cup, but you lost a couple of matches. But at the end of the day, if you can reach the final and win, you have succeeded. So some small defeats are fine. Some small failures are fine. But at the end of the day, the big objective a leader must achieve. A leader cannot fail. And Hitler failed, which means he was a bad leader. And that's the end of the story. All right, with that, we are at the end of today's session. Thank you so much for all your questions. It was fun as always, and we'll continue doing this next week. And we will have another live stream, and I'll take more of your questions then. Until then, please take care. Keep asking questions, keep raising your standards, and I will see you very soon next week. Take care. Thank you. Bye.